Hey, Doc. Welcome to the kitchen.
Oh, I love the kitchen, especially with you.
So we have a lot of people that ask us about nutrition.
Yep.
And especially nutrition in relation to the brain, since that's what we do. So we wanted to have a little informal education about the brain and nutrition. Mm-hmm. And so that's just what we're going to do on this fine Thursday night.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I think we have to start with a few definitions. Mm-hmm. So eating and food are like loaded topics. And even if I ask somebody, what did they eat today, or what diet are they on, or whatever, there's just a lot of interpretation that goes on there and a lot of emotion that happens there. So we're going to take a little bit of that emotion and interpretation out, and we're just going to start with some very basic terms, okay?
Yeah. No,
so
sounds good.
What I want to define first is nutrition. So I asked the computer, what is nutrition? And basically, the definition is that it is the process of providing food necessary for health and growth.
Okay.
So that's an interesting thing, because we always think of that with children, they're growing, but we sometimes forget that we're still growing.
Right.
So just a quick reminder to everybody that we are also growing. Mm-hmm. And we're growing in the process of, we're always making new cells. And we always have cells dying. We're not growing taller. We're not, hopefully, growing wider. But we are always producing new cells in our body. And so we need the nutrition to support that and to be the foundation for our health.
Makes complete sense. And we know things regenerate, like our bones regenerate, our stomach lining regenerates every 30 days. I mean, that's right into a lot of things that we talk about, the autonomic nervous system and the brain. So I'm excited to hear what we got.
Right. Good.
Okay.
Good. So there's two parts to the process of nutrition. One is to actually take the food and put it into our body. And we call that eating.
Right.
So that seems pretty simple, right? Just get the food in the body. And then the second part is digestion. And that is really complicated. So we're going to learn a little bit about digestion today. We're certainly not going to be exhaustive in that space, because it's so complicated that honestly, even the most educated people still don't understand it completely. But we are going to look at two more things about nutrition, and that is, what are the goals for nutrition? So one of the goals I think most everyone is familiar with is to provide enough calories so that you have energy. Okay. So every cell in our body needs to have that caloric intake so that it can create energy. So that is sort of like plugging in your iPhone at night. So you're going to use it all day, then you're going to refuel it at night. But within the calories, there are nutrients, and this is a little more complicated, but this is part 2 of the goals of nutrition, is to provide the body with enough nutrients so that the organs can function properly. So within our body, every organ has to have different kinds of nutrients, and they all have different cascades that happen that require certain nutrients in order to go to the next level and the next level. So one of the things I was thinking about when I thought of how to describe this is, so we know we have to eat calories, but if I start the day with ice cream, and then I go to lunch and have ice cream, and then I have dinner and I choose ice cream.
I like ice cream.
Right? Then I may have met my caloric needs for the day.
Okay.
But my body, my organs, my cells are starving for the nutrients, because the ice cream is not going to provide the recommended daily allowance of nutrients. The body is hunting for the things it needs. It's very smart. And it all kind of starts up here in the brain with different hormones that we have that talk to us about whether we're hungry or not and whether we're satiated or not. Those things are responses to whether we have nutrients or not. So you can have a full stomach of ice cream and be starving for nutrients.
So it's kind of like this mathematical formula that it's not just the calorie, but it's the quality of each of those calories. And so that's going to affect my hunger, Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Let's go to a brief video that describes the digestive process. And this is just my definition of the journey from start to finish.
That's a different room.
Which is in a different room
Okay, gotcha.
of this house. But amazing things have to happen from the time you put that food in your mouth to the time that the waste products are excreted.
Okay, let's watch it.
Hey health enthusiasts, ready to embark on an epic digestive adventure? Let's dive in. It all kicks off in your mouth. Did you know digestion starts before you even swallow? Your saliva is packed with enzymes that begin breaking down starches. Plus, your teeth work hard to physically break food into smaller pieces. Fun fact, you produce about 1 to 1.5 liters of saliva every day. That's enough to fill 2 large soda bottles. When you swallow, food travels down your esophagus through peristalsis, a wave of muscle contractions. This process is so effective you could technically digest food while standing on your head. Next, the food enters your stomach, the ultimate biological blender. Here, powerful acids and enzymes break down food into a substance called chyme. Your stomach lining produces a new protective layer of mucus every 2 weeks. Otherwise, these acids would digest your own stomach. The partially digested food then moves into your small intestine, where most nutrient absorption happens. This organ is about 20 feet long and would cover a tennis court if spread out. Here, your liver, pancreas, and gallbladder contribute various substances that help break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Next stop is the large intestine, or colon, about 5 feet long. This is where water is absorbed from the remaining material. Your colon houses trillions of bacteria, your gut microbiome, which help break down remaining nutrients and produce several vitamins. These bacteria collectively weigh about as much as your brain. Finally, the remaining waste material forms stool in the rectum. A healthy digestive system can complete this journey anywhere from 18 to 72 hours after eating. Interestingly, about 75% of your stool is water, and a third of its solid matter is made up of dead bacteria. And here's a fascinating fact. Your digestive system has its own nervous system, often called the second brain, with about 100 million neurons, more than in your spinal cord. We now know the gut-brain connection is real. Your nutrition impacts your brain in ways similar to how it fuels your body. So next time you make food choices, remember your brain is along for the ride too. Thanks for joining me on this digestive adventure. Stay healthy and keep exploring.
Hopefully you enjoyed that little journey from start to finish, shall we say. It moves us now into talking about the brain. And as it said in the video, we do know now that there is a direct connection between the gut and the brain. And we actually know that there's millions of neurons in the gut tract, even more than in the spinal cord. So it's pretty amazing. People call the gut the second brain. And we used to think the brain told the gut what to do via the vagus nerve. But now we actually know that the gut tells the brain what to do in 90% of the circumstances.
Wow.
And only 10 are going the other direction. This should not surprise us, though, because if you go all the way back in time, people knew that the gut was the center of the being. And that's why we have phrases like gut feelings and something is gut wrenching, or we have butterflies in our stomach, or the phrase trust your gut. Those are not new concepts. Those are actually ancient. So let's move on to talking about the brain. So in order to think about what the brain wants to eat, we have to understand a little bit about how the brain works. And I know you know much about this, but so I'm just going to kind of zip through it a little bit because we have heard some of these concepts before, so I'm just repeating them. So let me make sure I get my numbers right. So our brain uses about 20% of everything that we take in for nutrition, despite it's only being 2% of our body weight. So it's actually just a high burning energy hog. And here's the thing. If the fuel is good, it functions good. And if the fuel is not so good, then the performance of the brain is not so good. So we need to know that the brain primarily runs on glucose, and it needs a steady supply to be optimal in its functioning. So when the blood sugar is unstable, going up and down and crazy, we can experience things like confusion, irritability, and poor concentration. And this is documented so much in the literature, but also it's specifically documented in when people are diagnosed with diabetes. Some of these other symptoms are the first thing we know about, and then we find out later that it is diabetes and that the blood sugar was out of control. So as a nurse, that's the way I initially saw it happening, and seeing it in little kids who have very strong brains and are very healthy bodies, but when the blood sugar was out of control, then you would see the poor concentration or the irritability, really. Okay, so now let's talk about the nutrients that the brain needs.
Gotcha.
So this is the second part of what we had talked about earlier. You need the calories, but you need the nutrients within those calories, right? Yeah. So just some really basic things that I think most people would be familiar with. Omega-3 fatty acids, what you get from salmon and fish, is critical because it's actually part of the cell lining, the cell wall. So without that, the cell wall is compromised. And then we have the need of B vitamins that support the myelin sheath, which is along that neuron and allows the transmission of the impulse to zoom along there. Then you need antioxidants to protect the brain cells from oxidative stress and inflammation. You need iron to deliver oxygen to the brain. You need zinc to support memory formation and learning. Magnesium is a big part of the neurotransmitter function and also your sleep quality.
Yep.
And then vitamin D supports neuron growth and repair. And vitamin D, we're all deficient on. And B vitamins, again, are essential for energy. So just vitamins, like if we're not thinking about it and we go back to our ice cream example, not a lot of vitamins in the ice cream. I'm not trying to diss on ice cream, but it's just an easy example. So we have the need for the energy, we have the need for the nutrients, but something that kind of brings it all together is a word called inflammation. So you really cannot look at brain performance and not consider the word inflammation. So by inflammation, I'm not thinking about when you have a concussion, which is a localized acute injury to the brain, and then there's inflammation. But I'm not thinking about the time that somebody went to, the rainforest and got some kind of an organism that got in their brain and caused some kind of havoc.
Right.
So there's always those stories.
Right.
That's acute and localized. But I'm talking about inflammation that is chronic or systemic.
Right.
Okay? And the difference is that when we have this chronic or systemic inflammation, it really wreaks havoc on brain performance. And now we're going to go back to the two things we talked about earlier, the energy, right?
Right.
So when the brain is inflamed, it uses electricity very erratically.
Right.
And we see that in the high beta usage.
Right.
Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then when the brain is inflamed, the function of that organ is not what it should be. And the reason being is because we've got this red alert going on and the brain thinks there's an enemy in here and I need to build up all my defense and all my reaction and put on this huge inflammation reaction. And so our brain can't do its normal function. We can't focus. We can't remember. We can't sleep right when our brain is inflamed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think we talk a lot in the brain space about sympathetic, which is that fight, flight response, and parasympathetic, which is that digest and renew. And a lot of times I say that can come from psychological stressors, life stressors, that can come from other things that you experience, real life stressors, or it can actually come from inside of you. So when you talk about inflammation, that's what you're talking about, is that sympathetic response that has nothing to do with a lion, has nothing to do with what if this happens, but it's actually inside of me that's making it happen.
Right. It's huge. And
It's
then
so
you
important.
mentioned the thing sympathetic, parasympathetic.
Right.
And we describe the parasympathetic as rest, digest.
Yeah.
So
it
we
fits.
cannot disconnect these two things when we talk about nutrition and brain health. So the reason why that we want to talk about nutrition today in relation to the brain is that the only route for the inflammation to begin is through the mouth. So we have to start there. And then I would propose a 3-prong approach to brain-based nutrition. Number 1, we would say promote gut health.
Okay.
And I will describe that in our next video. Number 2, control blood sugar. And that might already make sense because of what we've already stated. And number 3, support the liver. So all 3 of these things, they're not only good for your brain, they're also supportive of your body in inflammation situations. And they all 3 kind of work together to help each other. So if you think about it either like a triangle or 3 things that are just really symbiotic, you are going to, if you work on any or all of the 3, you're going to get a synergistic effect of decreasing anxiety. And that is really the bottom line for where we want to get started with brain-based nutrition.
What a great start. Awesome.